Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're fading, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up, I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in the business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes this day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is.
Don't look like they're fading, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're fading, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
If I had a voice that reached 100 million people, I'd tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given. Won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers and these battle scars on my church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers, these battle scars.
Well, hello everyone. Man, didn't I just do this yesterday? I'm getting better, I guess, or more used to coming live more often, but I've got so much material to cover. And I'm so used to being familiar with the regular people who come to this that I forget this is on my YouTube channel. And most of the people on my YouTube channel don't know who I am. So I was reading best practices notes, for doing live. So forgive me, even though you guys know me. To those of you who have just visited my YouTube channel, welcome. My name is Karen Ann Harlos. If you're watching this in 2020, I am the current National Secretary of the Libertarian Party and just a complete Libertarian Party history nerd. So with the introductions out of the way, this is a series that we do where we're going through the LP news and just exploring what was going on certain months at a time through LP history so that I can learn it better and everyone else can learn it better as well. And I see you, Christopher. Good evening to you as well. It's always nice to have comments because otherwise I feel like I'm sitting in my basement looking at a mirror and talking to myself. And, I am a bit kooky, but that's even a bit too kooky for me. So what are we going to do today? We have the one page that we don't cover with the LP News. We were on May 1972. We've done all the other pages, but we do political perspectives separately because this is kind of going outside the LP into what the political situation was of that day. And good evening, Finley, as well. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me recap, though, other things we're going to be covering in the same May 1972 time frame. You're going to get multiple bonus episodes. I was going to do the political action manual, and I'm not sure if I'm going to do that because we figured out it was the November 72 edition. So I might put it off till then because I have so many months to catch up on. But we will be doing, let me go back here a second to my scenes. We will be doing this, which was in, I believe, the May 72 issue of Reason magazine, where Mike Holmes, who is one of the OG libertarians, wrote an article called The Idea of a Libertarian Party. This goes multiple pages. I'm just showing the first page so you know what we're going to be doing. And I had let you know I also received from UPI the interview with David Nolan that was mentioned a couple issues ago. They sent it to me. I need to write them to get reprint permission so that I can put that up on Elpedia. In any event, that's another thing that anyone could write to UPI to receive. The reason I point out now all the time, you'll get tired of this with me pointing out where I find all my resources because, you know, some trifling person last time was saying that I was using things that were only available to me and abusing my access to party records, which is absolutely ridiculous. By the way, anyone in Colorado, or if you wish to visit Colorado, please come to the archive. It's open and available to all. We actually had a lady here, Marta, from Italy last year. She is a medieval archivist in Italy that was very interested in political movements throughout the world. And she spent a month here helping us catalog the items. Now, I'm amazed at Marta because English was a second language. Can you imagine going to another country, sitting in a warehouse of archives, and having to identify and catalog documents that aren't even in your primary language? That is just incredible to me. Most of us Americans, we're lucky if we speak English. But everywhere else in the world, people tend to be more multilingual, and that just really, really, really impresses me. So you'll hear me now say where I get all my resources because I'm not going to be accused of things because, you know.
You catty bitches.
Basically. So we're going to be doing that. Also, I wanted to let you know that I had ordered, I mentioned it and I said my old brain couldn't remember the title. Here is something else I just ordered from Abe Books. Check this out. Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail, 1972. Apparently, this is a famous book. I had never heard of it. Hunter Thompson apparently is a pretty famous political commenter. Never heard of him, so I'm looking forward to reading this book. Apparently, a lot of copies of it are very collectible. I mean, you can get copies of this for like $500. Of course, I bought the El Cheapo paperback for, I think I ordered it for $12, including shipping on Abe Books. But I didn't know this was a big thing. It's also on Audible, but I wanted to actually read it. I'm still old school, you know. As you know, I'm a paralegal in my day job, and we do all of our legal research and things online now with Lexis or Westlaw. I still like printing out the case law. I mean, that's how I learned, you know. I still want the old Shepherd's books, the Shepherdized case law. Any of you legals out there will be like, oh, I remember Shepherdizing. Yeah. Anyway, that just brings back memories. You know, me and my rabbit trails. I remember being in this, we had a law library in one of the offices I used to work with, and we had an intern there, and she told me this bizarre story. I can't remember her name. I wouldn't say it even. I couldn't remember, but I can't remember her name. And, she revealed to me that she was a nudist, which was interesting, and that also she was a long distance runner, and when she ran, her toenails fell off. Isn't that weird? I'll just never forget that. Whenever I think of law libraries, I just think of this girl that I spent some time with whose toenails fell off every time she ran. I know, bizarre. Now you're always going to have that in your head, too. That just really freaked me out for some reason. This was 20 years ago. I will never, ever forget it. So I will be reading this book and going over it, but as I promised, at least for a couple months, uh, any book stuff is going to be patron only. So if you want to explore this book with me, please become a patron of the show. There'll be information on that at the end. And the book we'll be doing immediately, I'm going to start actually reading it tonight, is Judge Gray's book, All Rise, The Libertarian Way with Judge Jim Gray. Judge Gray is a personal friend of mine. He had sent this to me to review. If I don't know if it's gone out yet, but the most current issue of LP News is either out or about to go out. I had just did a review in that issue of his 3 paragraphs for liberty. Please check that out. And also, if I remember, I'll put a link in the show notes. I had an interview with Judge Gray when he was running for our nomination. And the interview is very interesting, but the best part of it, in case you didn't know about him, he writes musicals. And he does political American history musicals to teach high school kids about American political history. And at the end of that interview, he does one of his songs. So that was just a lot of fun. So if you're interested, search on my channel, on the YouTube channel for Judge Gray. Otherwise, I'll try to remember to put a link in the show notes, but I probably won't remember, you know. So that's just something for you. And as always, I'm going to give you my beg, which is, please, if you're watching this on Facebook, if you could scoot over to another tab and pull it up in YouTube as well. You can watch it in Facebook and comment there if you'd like, because I know most of your friends are there. But I really need the watch time, so I would super appreciate it if you pulled up another tab and also watched it on YouTube. Hey, listen, if you feel like doing me a solid, pull up a tab and go to my YouTube channel, and on the page, that's the channel page, there's a button that says Play All. Just let all the videos play. While you're at work or whatever. You don't even have to listen to them. Mute the volume. Just let them play. I need the watch hours. Yeah, that's cheating, but I have no shame. So, I have a comment here I wanted to put up from, if it will go up. There we go, from Dave Davis. And where were you last night? I missed you, Dave. You and Julian. And I don't see Julian here. Tisk, tisk. So David said, I'm parked in Minnesota for the night. Is it cold? It is frickin' freezing here in Colorado. So I'm parked in Minnesota for the night. Yes, Fear and Loathing is a famous book. I had never heard of it. There was a movie starring Bill Murray. Really? I might watch that movie. I'm like really getting into this political history. I mean, I have a confession to make to you guys. I've said this before, but I don't think people believe me. Before I got involved in the political part, in the Libertarian Party, I still loathe politics, but I really loathed politics to the point that I didn't want to know anything about it. I couldn't even, before I got involved with the Libertarian Party, it's not that school didn't try to teach this to me. I had great civics classes. I just didn't pay attention. I couldn't have told you anything at all about how our government is made up. Like, I didn't know the difference between the Senate and the House. And, like, I didn't know that states had, parallel systems. I just didn't care. I was so ignorant. And I'm not surprised I don't know any of this American political history because, when I was in my educational years, I thought American history was boring AF. And I had my nose shoved, because I loved history. Obviously, you guys know I loved history, but I did not care about American history. What I did was study ancient history. I loved Roman history, and that's what I spent my time doing, was studying ancient history, particularly Rome. Learned more about Roman concrete than any teenager should want to ever know, but that's another story. If you didn't know, Romans did use concrete. Didn't have rebar in it, obviously, but they did have a form of concrete. Alrighty, now that my chitty chatty is over, hopefully, let's go to the main, the entree, right? To the entree, where we're going to talk about Political Perspectives. And let's see if I've set this up right. You gotta admit, each time now I'm learning this program, I'm getting my stream depth down, and I think this is gonna flip to another camera. Wish me luck. Let me get some caffeine. Oh, and if you like the wonderful background art that I'm using here with Lady Liberty, thank you to Keith Thompson, who always does graphics for me. So now let's see if this works. Yes! See, I did do a camera change. And you guys can see Political Perspectives. And you're kind of getting a view of my back studio here. One day I'll do a studio tour, because it is getting better and better. It actually looks pretty professional right now, considering it's a corner in my basement. But we are going to wall off of this room so I can soundproof it, because I'd like to get a bit of better sound in here. Anyway, let's go. Are you ready? I'm ready. Hopefully you're ready. It is entitled Part 4. I always struggle with the Roman numerals. I'm always looking at 1V or IV. What is that? Okay, The Creature from the Black Lagoon. David Nolan had a way with words. Whatever else you can say about this year's political situation comedy, sitcom, you can't say it's been dull. Big Ed Muskie, all but anointed as the winner in the Donkey Derby. Remember that. That is always what I'm going to call the Democratic primaries now, the Donkey Derby, or the ass race, right? Donkey Derby, before it even began, has taken a bigger pratfall than any politician since Harold Stassen. Is pratfall really a word, or is that something he coined on the spot? You can see my screen there. I don't want you going to screensaver. That's where I can see y'all's chat. I got to fix that where it doesn't go to screensaver. Anyway, pratfall. I'll have to look that up. Hubert Humbug. David, you're being so mean to these fine public servants. Bucking the predictions of virtually every pundit save yours truly. A bit too proud of yourself there, Dave. Has arisen from the political grave, and two long shots, named George, have managed to corral delegates in quantities no one would have believed possible only a few months ago, despite, or perhaps because of, breaking almost every rule in the book. And one thing I wanted to mention, we did mention last night that George Wallace, this month, May 72, I think it was May 15th, suffered an attempted assassination, and he was grievously wounded. You'll notice in here, no mention is made of this, because this being the May issue, it probably actually was written in April and sent out for the beginning of May. So this hasn't happened yet as far as David knows. I'm sure that assassination attempt will loom large in the June issue, but because he doesn't know this yet, he is still counting Wallace as a factor to be reckoned with, though we know that because of those injuries, he dropped out of the primary. There is nothing very amazing in any of this. We predicted 2 months ago that Hot Air Hubert would eventually emerge as the nominee. I keep looking back to make sure there's no comment I need to deal with, because I always engage with comments, even if it interrupts everything, because again, it makes me not lonely. And nothing has happened to cause us to, and one other thing I wanted to check. Okay. I have this little thing on my stream deck that shows me how many people are here, which is always nice to know, out of all the channels. Okay. And at the risk of sounding braggardly, we will give in to the temptation to point out why our track record in predicting political developments has been far better than that of other gurus within the movement. Now, it's funny that Dave Nolan is so self-satisfied here, where he was just positive that Hubert Humphrey was going to be the nominee. We know it didn't turn out that way. It ended up being McGovern. So, Dave, you got a little too cocky. Just saying. Everyone else turned out to be right, despite all your back patting here. In a nutshell, it is simply that, unlike most of our compatriots, we have been prognosticating with our brains rather than with our bowels. You're going to eat those words, David. Too many libertarians, motivated primarily by a near psychotic obsession with dumping Nixon, have been chasing one will-o'-the-wisp after another rather than looking at things as they really are. A year ago, these moonstruck individuals were banging the drum for Mark Hatfield. 8 months ago, Proxmire was the man they were urging us to do battle for. 4 months ago, it was Muskie. Yes, Muskie. And now, no doubt, there will be a great hue and cry pushing McGovern as the only answer to the Nixon problem. What's interesting here is I bet you everyone was saying, you know what I'm going to say now? I bet you everyone was saying in 72, this election is too important. We can't vote third party. Happens every election. Don't buy it. If it is in fact that important, that's when you have to vote for third party, because we got to get out of this hamster wheel. Now, it is just barely possible that McGovern will, by some great feat. Oh, I love this word. I learned a new word. Dave Nolan teaches me new words. Okay. By the way, also, I learned a great new word from Word of the Day about a month ago. Rhodomontade, which is vainglorious boasting, which is wonderful. But this word goes with a rhodomontade very well. So now it is just barely possible that McGovern will, by some great feat of legerdemain, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. And I had looked up the definition. Let me look it up again. You're probably going to see my screen here come up in the background because of the way I have this set up, but that's okay. I don't have my lesbian midget porn up, so you won't be offended. So let's look up dictionary.com. Oh, it's not coming up. Good. Dictionary.com. And look up legerdemain, because I forgot what it meant. I'd be interested if anyone out there has heard that word before. I got a fairly large vocabulary thanks to my mother, because she started me reading very, very young. That's the biggest gift you can give to your children. And then she was a member of the Book of the Month Club, and I would just read all her adult books, and some of them were a bit too racy for my age. But let's see. Legerdemain. Legerdemain means a sleight of hand, trickery, deception, any artful trick. That's a great word to have in your political vocabulary, along with rhodomontade. Okay. Oh, by the way, I'd love to know your thoughts on this. You know, I do already a daily show. We don't record it daily. We record it in blocks of time, and we're actually behind. I do the Cult of RONR. If you don't watch that, it is very entertaining. And if you want to learn RONR, which is Robert's Rules of Order newly revised, it's a great way to learn it and have fun. Myself and my good friend Mike Seebeck from Colorado, we do daily devotions in RONR. So check out that channel if that's something you're interested in. But I'm thinking of doing another daily thing that's totally outside of politics. That's like a word of the day thing. Now, I know other people have done similar things, but mine will be a little different. I have an idea that I'm not going to give away because I haven't started it yet, and I don't want anyone ripping off my idea, even though there's no such thing as intellectual property. But as long as I keep it in my head, it belongs to me. Anyway, I'd love to know your thoughts on whether I should do that. I love frickin' words and language. Great podcast, by the way, is A Way with Words, if you're not familiar with it. Anyway, if he wins the California primary, it is not inconceivable that he might be able to keep Hubert from getting the nomination on the first 2 or 3 ballots at convention. So apparently they go through a bunch of ballots as well at convention. At which point almost anything becomes possible. If, on the other hand, Hubert wins California, he becomes virtually unstoppable. I'm going to guess that's probably what happened, because we all know... No, Hubert wasn't the nominee, so I guess that probably McGovern probably won California. We'll find out, I guess. If you doubt this, remember that despite all the to-do over the primaries, approximately 1/3 of the delegates, or 2/3 of the number needed to win nomination, are from non-primary states. I did not know this. That's not the case today. I wonder if they were from caucus states? And most of them are from relatively conservative southern and western states, and therefore likely to favor Humphrey or Wallace over McGovern. Now, those of you who maybe are from the East Coast, or, you might not know that at least most of the West, including Colorado, till very recently, was a caucus state. They didn't have primaries. And the Libertarian Party still here doesn't have primaries, though they tried to force us into it. I have a funny story to tell you about that. Remind me at the end of the political perspective so I don't go too off. But, so back then, a third of the delegates were from non-primary states. That doesn't happen anymore. I don't know if there's any sheerly caucus states anymore. Is there Ohio? Why did I think that? But I don't know. If any of you know, let me know. And therefore likely, okay, we already said that. Thus, the situation boils down to one of two alternatives. Either Hubert has it virtually locked up going into the convention, or there is a stalemate. And if the latter is the case, the man who stands to benefit most is not McGovern, but Teddy Kennedy. Which brings us to a point we first raised 2 months ago. The relationship between McGovern and Kennedy. Is McGovern his own man, or merely a cat's paw for the playboy of Chappaquiddick? Now, I knew the word cat's paw. If you don't know that word, that's another great word. I know what it means, like, I didn't turn off the furnace. Do you hear it going? Oh my God, I should go turn off that furnace. Okay, we're going to have an intermission here. Is there anything I can play in an intermission? Let's see, sounds. So I can go turn off that furnace. Do I have a songs in here? I wanted to play one of my themes, maybe. So let me pull up my soundboard here. Just give me a second. Oh God, that furnace is so loud. I need to put a big note to myself to remember to turn that off. Okay, sounds. Come on, mouse, where'd you go? Don't you hate when you lose your mouse between screens? Oh, here it is. All right, let me just play this while I scoot to go turn off the furnace. Is it not playing?
Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're fading, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up, I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in the business.
There we go. Okay, kept you entertained for a few moments here. Whew, I usually remember to turn off the furnace. It's loud. I'm sitting right next to it, which is why I just went right behind the camera to turn it off. But the rest of the house is going to freeze while I'm doing this podcast. Not podcast, YouTube, whatever. Anyway. All right, so a cat's paw, which is like, let's look up the actual definition of that. I know what it means intuitively, but let's look up what it technically means. I remember once when Nick Starwork had said to me, "You're just being Alicia Matson's cat's paw." Okay. A person used to serve the purposes of another. A tool. Interesting. Okay, so now we got cat's paw. So if McGovern is his own man, or merely a cat's paw for the playboy of Chappaquiddick. Maybe I need to go watch Chappaquiddick too. Now I'm familiar with it. I've read things on it, but I didn't see the movie. At this time, we will not attempt to prove a case either way, but will simply make some observations about the waterlogged one. First, it hardly needs pointing out that if all the possibilities we face, Teddy is by far the most terrifying. He's on the wrong side of virtually every issue, from the economy to the draft, and possesses enough charisma that, unlike HHH or McGovern, he could probably actually implement many of his sick totalitarian schemes. There are enough Kennedy sycophants in this country that Teddy could push the U.S. past the point of no return with little difficulty. And his personal tendencies toward tyranny and his total lack of morality are widely documented. I mean, we got all so shocked by, grab him by the pussy, Trump. I mean, think back to then. You had this guy who let this woman drown, that he was fooling around with. He just let her drown. Far worse. And they're still a celebrity family. And you see what they, well, in a way you kind of can't blame people for medical ignorance. I can't remember the daughter's name. Was it Caroline? The Kennedy daughter that they had lobotomized. If you didn't know that, it's a crazy story. She was mentally ill. The family was embarrassed by her, and they actually thought it would help her. Back then, a lot of people were getting lobotomized. It was a treatment for freaking depression. I'm glad I didn't live there. He ended up with an ice pick in my eye, but yeah. And it didn't turn out well for her. Was it Caroline or Rose? I know those are two Kennedy daughters, but I can't remember which one got lobotomized. I want to know this. My OCD. Kennedy daughter lobotomy. There's some great YouTube videos on this. It is Rosemary. So it was Rose, not Caroline. Crazy. Anyway. But as we noted 2 issues ago, there is some doubt as to whether EMK actually wants the presidential nomination this time. Every indication points to his wanting the veep-ship rather than the top spot. And what's more, he's virtually certain to get it. Wayne is cooking a brat and it smells wonderful. HHH has already stated that Teddy is his choice. And it seems, excuse me, I'm always sucking down the soda and it makes me burpalicious. And it seems more than likely that McGovern will match Hubert's offer, even if he isn't simply a cat's paw for Ted. Thus, upon analysis, it appears that the Democratic ticket, need to just double check something here, that the Democratic ticket will be either Humphrey and Kennedy, McGovern and Kennedy, or Kennedy and McGovern. And we challenge any libertarian to stand up and maintain with a straight face that any of these combinations is in any way an improvement over the repulsive pair we have in office now. There has been much talk amongst the dump Nixon crowd to the effect that, we hear this so much now, to the effect that we in the LP are not realistic. On the grounds that we cannot hope to prevent the presidency from falling to either Tricky Dicky or his Democratic rival this November. And indeed, we cannot. But that's not the point. Our purpose in 1972 is not to help one despot defeat another. We hear that each time too, don't we? Oh, boo, boo-hoo, if only all you libertarians voted for Trump. Like we would have been doing that, right? As I've said on Facebook, I'd rather eat out my own small intestine with a spork than vote for that guy. So our purpose, we said, I'm going to read that sentence again. Our purpose in 1972 is not to help one despot defeat another. It is to provide a means for opponents of despotism to say no to both alternatives. Or as I said, I am glad your shitty candidate lost, and that would have been true no matter which of them lost. So, to our critics, we can only suggest that they stop and take a long look at the Democratic alternatives and then decide whether they want to simply trade oppressors or whether they wish to join with us in creating a true counterforce in American politics. Alrighty. Now, I am getting so old. I know there was something I said I wanted to mention at the end of here, and I don't remember what it was. Do you guys remember? I'll, I'll listen to it later and I'll go, dirty derpy derpy derp. But, oh, this, I see a little blurb here that answered a question we had earlier. The Libertarian Party newsletter is published on the 15th of each month by the national office, ergo David's living room, of the Libertarian Party. So this was published, so sent out on the day there was the assassination attempt. So I bet you this went out and he was like, oh, I wish, I'd known that, and I wouldn't have said half of this stuff here. All right, I'm just scanning over this to see if I can remember. Oh, the caucus stuff. That's what I wanted to tell you guys. So Colorado used to be a caucus state. And the rulers in Denver decided they wanted to force everyone into primaries. The Democrats, if I recall correctly, were fine with that, but the Republicans were not, and the Libertarians certainly were not. So we went to the hearings to give public testimony, and a bunch of Libertarians came. And the Republicans, bless their heart, they're not used to many Libertarians, I guess, coming to these things. So the one guy who got up to talk had a prepared speech. And one line in his prepared speech was, well, there are only two parties in Colorado, was one of his lines. And then I got up after him and I looked and said, I think you had a little error there, fella. There was more Libertarians there than there were Republicans. And to be honest, we gave better testimony as far as I'm concerned. Now, minor parties were allowed to opt out. I think also the Republicans and the Democrats could opt out too, but the bar is higher and I really don't care about them. We just had to put it in our bylaws that we opt out of mandatory primary participation. The only time we have to participate in a primary here in Colorado is if at our convention in any partisan race, a candidate is not nominated with at least 50% of the delegate vote of those voting. And that doesn't happen very often, but it did happen last time. Normally, if someone doesn't get 50% at our convention, the lower count one will just drop out because we feel so strongly about not having theft-funded primaries. So this time, Galen did not drop out. And I think he was behind, or was it Ramon? I can't remember. No, maybe it was Ramon, and he decided not to drop out, because Galen usually does. But it's funny, Galen had the higher vote at convention, Galen Kent, but in the public primary, Ramon Doan had the higher. And actually, I switched my vote between convention and primary, because there were some rumors spread about Ramon that I thought were true, that he was a gun grabber, and it was not true. And that's the reason I didn't vote for him at convention, because he was going to run a real campaign. Galen is generally just a line holder, and I will always, when it's a choice between a line holder and someone who wants to run a real campaign, choose the person who wants to run the real campaign. No offense at all against Galen. He is a hero. He always puts his name up for the ballot. But there was these rumors floating around, and it's totally not true. I have an interview also with Ramon where we talk about that on my channel. Alrighty, so let me figure out if I can go back to my other screen, which I think will be main camera. There we go. Yay! Yay! Rose Kennedy, I see Dave. Yeah, you saw it while I was looking it up. Crazy story. And while I don't blame them for thinking the lobotomy might help her, because everyone thought that then, I definitely do blame them for shutting her away in an institution after the crap they pulled on her went badly. And the fact that they were embarrassed by her beforehand, because it was the Kennedy image. They have to be the perfect family. They can't have somebody with mental problems. That's freaking sick. Poor Rose. Anyway, so I think that is it for this episode, do we call it? Yeah, this episode. I would like to do another episode tomorrow, but I don't think that will happen. And this is why. Let me look this up because I want to give you guys information in case you want to watch this. But I'm going to be on another show tomorrow. But I got to pull up my private messages because I can't remember which one. I look at my schedule like the day of. And I actually have some LP stuff to discuss with you guys if you want to hear it. If you don't, just let me know. But let me pull up my private message here because I'd like to let you know what show I'm going to be on tomorrow. I'm going to be on one Monday and one on Tuesday. Let me find it. If I can't, we'll forget about it. Okay, Tuesday, I am going to be on the Late to Liberty podcast. I'll post on both my personal page and my secretary page the time. And let me look at, for the one I'm going to be on tomorrow, because that one is Tuesday. I'm an old lady. You got to forgive me here for my really shitty memory. Let me find it. It's not him. I get so many private messages I cannot even tell you. That's why I tell people when it's something I've got to remember, you have to send me an email because it'll get buried. It'll get buried. Okay, here's the other one. 1 second. Oh, maybe this isn't it. Roads to Liberty. That's it. So I'm going to be on Roads to Liberty on Monday. I'll put all that information up so you guys can tune in. So what I wanted to tell you on the LNC stuff and what I'm going to be talking about on both of these podcasts is my recent rants about Nationals. It's generous to call it lackluster response because it's basically non-existent response to the civil rights violations that came along with COVID and how pissed off I am about that. Now, Steve Dosbach, who I adore, and Steve Dosbach, I count amongst one of the best chairs this party has had. Despite my various disagreements with Nick Sarwark, I do think Nick Sarwark, for most of his tenure, was the best chair this party had. I know a lot of people do not agree with me, but that's fine. It was at the end he kind of went off the rails, but to me that doesn't detract from his excellent service up to that point. And a close runner-up is Steve Dosbach. And because of Nick's freaking out at the end, maybe I would put Steve on top, but whatever. Those two are the top two chairs in the party history, at least to my knowledge. And Steve somewhat convicted me. That's kind of a Christian term if you guys don't know it. It isn't meant to be that he was judging me or anything like that. It meant he said something that made me judge myself. That's kind of like what conviction means. And he asked what specific proposals had I brought to the LNC that got shot down. In other words, asking me, well, what have you done to make sure they were doing something? And there have been no specific proposals, because I already know that I'm in the minority, because we've had general discussions. And I know that I am in the minority, that most of the LNC is running scared of COVID. But I still should have brought specific proposals and allowed them to get shot down. But I had become very discouraged. And that's not like me. So I was really glad that Steve asked me that because, I was like, yeah, you're right. Even though I know they won't pass, you really don't know till you bring it up, right? And let people get on the record with their votes. So I gave Saturday was the last day to give notice for motions to be heard at the December budget meeting, which was supposed to be in person, but because they're running scared, we're having it online. And I gave, let me see if I can pull up that email. I would like to read it to you guys. The motion that I brought forward. And I see Rhett did a question mark, and I'm not sure which part of what I said you have a question on. So if you can elaborate. I will try to answer. But let me pull up my emails here. I don't have Chrome saved. Why don't I have Chrome saved? Okay, let me find it. Chrome. I have to stick Chrome on my menu bar, or dock, or whatever the hell they call it for a Mac. Okay, Gmail. And let me pull up my emails. See, I should plan all this ahead of time. You guys can tell that I really do things very spontaneously in my life. So pull up my secretary email. And Gmail's asking me for my password. You know, it's not like I'm in this every single minute of every single day. And let me see if I can find it now. Sent. Yeah, here we go. Bunch of people were giving notice. Okay, so here's the motion that I gave notice that I'm going to bring at the, I believe it's December 5th and 6th, whatever that weekend is. I think those are the right dates. And here's the motion. Because for notice requirements, you have to give the exact wording of the motion, or at least the substantial wording of the motion that you intend to bring. So here it is. Establish a committee to work with staff and the party chair regarding the party's messaging and response to the violations of civil liberties by the state due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The committee shall comprise Karen Ann Harlos, Aaron Adams, Jeffrey Hewitt, plus one additional LNC member to be chosen by the party chair, and 4 non-LNC members to be chosen by the 4 LNC members of the committee. I picked myself, Aaron, and Jeffrey because we are the 3 who have been consistently standing up for this issue. So we'll see. If you think that is something you'd like to see done, write your LNC rep and tell them to vote for that. Do I think it's going to pass? No. Maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised. I love surprises, at least those kinds of good surprises. Okay, the other thing to discuss, please go check out my secretary page, or even on my personal page, or lp.org. It's on the main page. Again, this is really relevant to 2020. If you're watching this later, I'm sorry. You get a little bit of history, I guess. The draft minutes for the second sitting of the convention are available for member review. It's already gone through LNC review. Though I have my suspicions that no one actually read them. I'm going to start putting in Easter eggs the way Alicia did. She would put in fake information and give rewards to people who found it just to make sure people were actually reading them. But I didn't do that for these, and I think I'm going to start doing that again because I want them to be proofread. Anyway, so they're out there. Please go to read them. But there's like an interesting, do we want to call it a controversy? But Mr. Tom Nav is angry at me for the minutes, claiming that all of the business that happened between Alex Merced passing the gavel to Omar Recurio of Florida to handle the vote on whether or not the online delegates would be admitted, to when he took the gavel back, there was a bunch of business that happened in there, including passing a temporary bylaw. And he doesn't think any of that belongs in the record because he considers all of that illegitimate and is mad at me for including it. That's my job. I include all motions made, whether you think they're illegitimate or not. And what's funny about that, where he's saying you shouldn't include that in there and you're violating your duty as secretary because he thinks it was illegitimate. So let's take that logically. Me, I have a different position than Thomas Knapp. I believe that everything up to that moment until we passed that temporary bylaw was illegitimate. So should I, as secretary, have just decided I wasn't going to include anything up to that point? No, that's not my job. Right? I mean, come on. That's just, I mean, if we're going to start to say that the secretary gets to determine what's legitimate and not, you don't want me making those decisions. My job is to record everything that happened. Facts. The facts don't care about our feelings about the facts, right? Channeling Mr. Shapiro here. Let me see here. Do I have I'm checking out all my little sound effects here. No, I don't have a good one for this one. Bummer. I'm gonna need to come up with some good sound effects. I do have the one from that. Yeah. Anyway, I've got some applause, a bicycle horn, dun dun dun, good drama. What is this? I don't know what this one is. I don't want to play a bunch of inappropriate sound effects, so I won't do it. Julian, you're late. I was asking for you earlier, and you are late. Because I do these at so many inconsistent times. I know. All right, everyone. So that is all that I have for you today. The next supplement will probably be Wednesday. Again, because I'm doing 2 other podcasts. I'm doing one Monday, one Tuesday. But if I have time and I can pull some stuff together, maybe I'll do ones those nights as well, because I'm really trying to catch up. So I'm doing so many. I want to get caught up to the month that we are on. But, you know, that's where we're at now. So we're at the first bonus episode. Yeah, likely story you've been swamped with college stuff, but that's more important, definitely more important. So here we go. In the closing here, I'm going to give you the spiel that I always give you. Please subscribe to the YouTube page if you haven't already. It helps my engagement. And when things have a higher statistical engagement, YouTube recommends it to more people, and more people get to learn about the Libertarian Party and like it. Even dislikes boost engagement. So when I have like the trolls, the Republican trolls who are all like ratioing my Tucker Carlson video, I was still like sitting back going, go on. It's engagement. It all counts good to me. Go ahead. Play your little ratio game. I don't care. And that's the one where somebody said I was wearing the slutty sweater. Now I can't look at that sweater ever the same again. So please subscribe, like, and share. Sharing is the least important of it because that doesn't help my YouTube statistics, but watch it on YouTube. And as I said, pull up my channel, hit play all in another tab, even turn the volume off, like watch, let my channel run for like 2 days straight to get me some watch hours. I would really appreciate it. But also, I know everyone is hurting. I get it, because I'm at the like, oh my God, how am I going to pay my mortgage stage? I get it with COVID. But if you can, if you appreciate the time and effort and research I put into these, please consider becoming a patron, either at patreon.com, Pink Flame of Liberty, or Subscribestar, which is also Pink Flame of Liberty with hyphens in it. We libertarians believe in voluntary, right? Voluntary contributions to the things that we find of value. It is as little as $1 a month. And I get it. To some, you can't even afford that. I totally get it. But if you can, you'll then get access to the book reviews. So you will get additional value, and you do get a handwritten thank you note from me for whatever that is worth or not worth. You will get that, and be on my card list. And if you don't like subscribing, but you'd like to shoot over just a one-timey, I put my PayPal Me dot up there also in the the box at the bottom of this that has all the information. What do they call it? Whatever. There is my Amazon affiliate link. If you're going to buy something from Amazon anyway, start at that link, which is a funny link. You don't have to buy the item that's at that link. It sticks a cookie for that session, and anything you buy in that session gets credited to my affiliate account. It's a way for you to help me without costing you anything. And anything I earn through Amazon affiliates, I invest right back in by spending it on Amazon and getting more equipment to make the show better. So thank you, everyone. I hope you have an awesome night. Mi guapas de libertad. Let me find how I exit out of this thing. I'm getting better. Oh, here we go. Bye-bye. I love you. Get this going. You're not going to go? You're not going to... You disappointed me. I did so good on this. So let me come down here and find my other button. I did not screw up anything with Ecamm until this. God's keeping me humble. Bye. I can't get it to play. Can you believe this? I think here we go.
You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians, or choose to be an accountant because it's safe in the business.